Like yesterday's RC, which I hope you've already done, or you should be solving it right after. Today's RC is also one of the easier ones in what was the toughest slot in CAT 22. And in fact, a lot of our students who went with the test taking strategy that, we'd sort of help them personalize and who went with the techniques and got a good score in verbal, they saw their marks being scaled up by anywhere from 6, 7 marks all the way to even double digit. Now, if you're not sure what is the scaling up or what is normalization and you want to understand more about it, or you understand what you should do if a particular section is tough, either in a mock or more importantly in the actual CAT exam, just put it in the comments below and we'll post a video or we'll explain it. If you're a student and you're watching this at mockcat.com, of course, you can just come on to any class and ask me in the doubt clearing time, right? That's one of the things which we have, where we have an open doubt clearing where you could ask me or Vignesh any or every doubt, whether it's about that topic or it's about any other general topic or something which you have read outside. So please definitely take advantage of that. So now in this passage, again, there are a couple of different views which are there. So we need to identify the author's view. So that's something which we will work here. And if you feel you need practice in this, make sure that, you've gone through the author's POV solved examples and you're doing the daily reading and the POV. If you're one of our students, of course, you'll be sending it to me and you'll be getting my feedback, or you'll be coming to class and asking doubts. In case if you're just watching this on YouTube, I'll put the link to the daily POV section and our Telegram channel in the description and the first pinned comment. Some part of it in terms of a lot of solved examples where I have read out articles sort of utilizing the techniques which we use are there. And these are CAT genres, CAT style articles, CAT difficulty level, CAT sources, and so on. So, hopefully that's helpful to you. And you also have a daily reading and a POV which you can check out again in Telegram or on the site itself. So on that, let's start off. We'll try to figure out what are these couple of points of view. Here, it's not a case of authors versus somebody else, but it's two different styles based on two different regions. So the first, as we can see, is that of the Chinese. The Chinese have two different concepts of a copy. Fangshipen are imitations where the difference from the original is obvious. These are small models or copies that can be purchased in a museum shop, for example. The second concept for a copy is Fushipin. These are exact reproductions of the original, which for the Chinese are of equal value to the original. It has absolutely no negative connotations. So Chinese people, they have two different concepts of a copy. There are two types of copies. The names are not very important. One is imitations where there is a difference, and the other is exact reproductions. These are copies, but these are exact copies. And from their perspective, there is nothing negative in it, right? And it has the same value as the original. So the Chinese have two types of copies. One is different and one is exactly the same. I'll just put the equal to symbol, which also has the same value, and there are no negative connotations out here. So a lot of times, when something is a copy, so say if you have a painting and then there's another painting which is exactly the same or very similar, but it is not done by, say, that particular celebrated painter. So typically we look at it as a copy and we will say that there is a huge difference. For the Chinese, that is not the case. There are no negative connotations. The discrepancy with regard to the understanding of what a copy is has often led to misunderstandings and arguments between China and Western museums. The Chinese often send copies abroad instead of originals in the firm belief that they're not essentially different from the originals. The rejection that then comes from the Western museums is perceived by the Chinese as an insult. So the Westerners, as you can see, have a view which is similar to what I was describing, where, if something is considered a copy, it could either be something which is wrong, something which is unethical. Definitely it will have a lower value. But for the Chinese, that is not the case. So now we also understand the difference in the view, which is the Westerners' view. So in the West, this is something which is not there. For them, a copy is a copy. And this is something which has led to disagreements or is even considered to be an insult by the Chinese. So whenever an exact copy is sent, the Chinese are doing it with good intention. They are feeling that this, what we've sent you, has the same value and is the same thing as the original. The Westerners say, no, this isn't. You have sent me a copy. And then the Chinese feel insulted because their intentions were not that. They were not intending to fool the Westerners. The Far Eastern notion of identity is also very confusing to the Western observer. The Ice Grand Shrine in Japan is 1300 years old for the millions of Japanese people who go there on pilgrimage every year. But in reality, this temple complex is completely rebuilt from scratch every 20 years. So now we spoke about copies which are exact copies, which were probably more, statues, statuettes, small figures, maybe even things like, vases or things like that, right? Now we are going to the extent of temples, right? So temples or large buildings. Now there's one which is probably extremely sacred to the Japanese. There are millions of people who are going to visit that temple or going to worship in that temple every year. But from their perspective, they are considering it to be 1300 years old. The reality is it is actually being rebuilt from scratch every 20 years. So what do you consider it? The Far Eastern view is that this is the same temple and it is 1300 years old. The Western perspective would probably be that, hey, this is a completely new temple which has been rebuilt somewhere in the last 20 years, right? So this again becomes a difference. The Cathedral of Freiburg Minster in southwest Germany is covered in scaffolding almost all year round. Now, this is something which is a cathedral, it's a church, a large church, which is based in southwest Germany. So, this is probably the Western point of view. The first sentence is sort of alerting us to what this paragraph is about. So, let's keep reading. The sandstone from which it's built is a very soft porous material that does not withstand natural erosion by rain and wind. After a while, it crumbles. As a result, the cathedral is continually being examined for damage and eroded stones are replaced. And in the cathedral's dedicated workshop, copies of the damaged sandstone figures are constantly being produced. Of course, attempts are made to preserve the stones from the Middle Ages for as long as possible, but at some key point, they too are removed and replaced with new stones. So what is happening? Here when we have the Japanese shrine, we don't know why it is being completely rebuilt from scratch every 20 years. It's a little unlikely that it is because of damage, because within 20 years we don't expect something to be so damaged that you have to fully rebuild it. So there seems to be a different reason. But here what is happening is there is this cathedral in the West, right, in Germany, which because of damage it is being continually rebuilt. Right. So there is a difference in what is happening in the two countries, in the the temple or the shrine in two countries for sure. And the author has given us their view as well. Fundamentally, this is the same operation as with the Japanese shrine. So this is the same thing which is happening. Japanese shrine is being rebuilt every 20 years. This cathedral is something which is as and when it is damaged, it is being, those particular parts are being repaired. But ultimately, the author is saying it's the same operation. Except in this case, the production of a replica takes place very slowly and over long periods of time. So how it happens is different, right? They're continuously working on it. If something needs to be repaired, it is being done over time slowly. So net, we can understand that the author is maybe also thinking along with the Chinese and Japanese, so I can call it, along with the Oriental, that this is something which makes sense. If you have something which is an exact copy, it would be considered original. Now, at this point, we are done with these two examples. The author's gone on to something else. You can see there are 3 dots which shows an edit as well. So let's take a stab at this question. Which one of the following statements does not, very important, please don't miss it and make a silly mistake, does not correctly express the similarity between the Ice Grand Shrine and the Cathedral of Freiburg Minster? So let's say if you don't know one of the words, you're not sure what is cathedral or something, just look at it as, okay, this is a place of worship, it's a shrine. This probably is also something like that. Or even if you just look at it as a building, it's fine. Same way you can also infer the meaning of scaffolding. So scaffolding is like, you generally have a lot of structures, iron structures, something like ladders and all, which are set up for construction or repair. Let's say you don't know the word, it really doesn't matter. You could think that, it's something which is helping in the repair, or it is something which is, protective, right? That will be enough. What we're focusing on is the sort of the difference in viewpoint. This is something which is completely being rebuilt from scratch every 20 years. This is being repaired as and when needed. But fundamentally, both are the same. Why? Because something that's really old is being replaced by something which is really new. And who is replacing it? Somebody else is doing it, right? The person or the people who initially built the cathedral are not the ones, obviously, who are building it now. So now we're going to find 3 of these 4 options to be similarities between the two. We eliminate that, whichever is not becomes the right answer. Both are continually undergoing restoration. This one, I have a doubt with the word continually. We know that, there's continual repair which is going on in the German cathedral, but here this is something which is being rebuilt from scratch. So it's not going to be throughout a continued process that, the entire 20 years it's being rebuilt. Maybe over that 1 or 2 years or a few months it is being rebuilt. So this is likely to be a answer. Let's just look at the other three options. Both can be regarded as very old structures, can be regarded, right? So both the authors, or rather the examiners, not saying that both are definitely very old structures when, that would be a little extreme, because then you would think, but this has been built recently, this is being repaired and all. But both can be regarded to be old structures. So this definitely is a point of similarity. Both were built as places of worship. Little bit of vocabulary here. You have shrine, you have cathedral, but we can infer it. If you know the meaning, of course, it's very easy to eliminate it. Both will one day be completely rebuilt. This is also true. This is anyway being completely rebuilt every 20 years. And this, as we keep repairing it, ultimately everything would get destroyed, and then you would have everything replaced with new stones, new construction, and so on. How can I say that? Because we are told that this sandstone is very soft, porous, it does not withstand natural erosion. So we can infer that majority of it is going to be replaced, right? And that's enough for us to sort of say, you don't need to doubt the completely rebuild, because you know that things are crumbling and they are being replaced. This will be in the future, so it is possible to visualize a future where everything has been changed. But when we say both are continually undergoing restoration, it's like a small point, right? Here this is happening once every 20 years, so this is not a similarity, and this becomes the right answer. Now, at this point, we can also solve the third question, because we understand the Chinese view, right? This question is asking us, which one of the following copies would a Chinese museum be unlikely to consider as having less value than the original? So which one is going to have the same value as the original? So we know that if we have an exact copy, then the Chinese consider that exact copy to have the same value as the original. So we're going to read through these options and try to find something which is an exact copy. Pablo Picasso's painting of Vincent van Gogh's original painting identical in every respect. This should be the right answer, because identical in every respect is another way of saying exact copy. But let's just read the other options. Pablo Picasso's photograph of Vincent van Gogh's original painting printed to exactly the same scale. Here everything is the same except for the medium. One is a photograph, one is a painting. So there is a slight difference. So one is definitely preferable to two. So I'll eliminate option 2. Pablo Picasso's miniaturized but otherwise faithful and accurate painting of Vincent van Gogh's original painting. Here again, there's one size which is different, right? The size is different. This one is a miniature, so we can eliminate this option as well. Again here, if you see, bearing Picasso's signature. So this again becomes a difference. While probably if Picasso is going to, make the same painting as Van Gogh, and he's putting his own signature, then he's being honest. However, from the perspective of the Chinese, that brings a difference, right? Instead of having Van Gogh's signature or maybe no signature, you end up having Picasso's signature, which would be a difference. So a little bit of inference we need here to eliminate this option. Whereas here, if you see, they've made it easy for us, right? This is identical in every respect. So this is exactly what the Chinese will consider to have the same value. Here we are also having a question which is slightly more complicated, right? There's just a layer being added. Instead of saying that which one of the following copies would a Chinese museum consider as having the same value as the original, they are saying would be unlikely to consider as having less value. So if you don't think of it as having less value, that means you are considering it to have equal value or more value. But here, of course, more value is not logical. So we're going for something which the Chinese will consider to be of equal value. So we go for the first option. In the field of art as well, the idea of an unassailable original developed historically in the Western world. So this unassailable original, something which is exactly the original, something which cannot be attacked in any way, saying, hey, this is not original, right? So this developed in the Western world. Back in the 17th century in the West, excavated artworks from antiquity were treated quite differently from today. They were not restored in a way that was faithful to the original. So you can see that this part is actually the opposite of an unassailable original. If something is treated differently, if something is not being restored in the same way as the original, then of course it cannot be called an unassailable original. So we can then infer that an unassailable original is one which was restored in a way that is faithful to the original, or which was restored and brought back to exactly the same shape as it was originally. Right? This part was continuing. Instead, there was massive intervention in these works, changing their appearance. This entire part is something which is opposite in meaning. So we can see that the Westerners also probably in the beginning had the same thought process as the Chinese and the Japanese did, but somewhere around the 17th century they changed their minds and they said that we are not going to restore things differently. We are going to restore them exactly as they were. So it's going to be an unassailable original. There's going to be no changes. No one can come and say that, hey, this is not the original. There is some change there. It is probably this intellectual position that explains why Asians have far fewer scruples about cloning than Europeans. So as I keep telling you in class, whenever you have few, fewer, little without the word in between, it means almost none. So when we are saying they have far fewer scruples, it means that Asians have much less scruples, or they hardly have any scruples about cloning as compared to Europeans. So their scruples or their issues about cloning are negligible as compared to Europeans, who probably have more issues. The South Korean cloning researcher who attracted worldwide attention with his cloning experiments is a Buddhist. He found a great deal of support and followers among Buddhists, while Christians called for a ban on human cloning. Huang legitimized his cloning experiments with his religious affiliation. I am Buddhist and I have no philosophical problem with cloning. And as you know, the basis of Buddhism is that life is recycled through reincarnation, coming back, right? The same soul or the same person coming back in different lives. In some ways, I think therapeutic cloning restarts the circle of life. So because of the religious or cultural way of thinking, right, unlike Christian people, Buddhist people, and it's something which, a lot of us who would be Hindu might also believe in, right? What is the belief? That there's reincarnation. The same person or the same soul is coming back in a new body. So Huang is saying that when I'm cloning, I'm also sort of doing the same thing. It's again the circle of life. The same person is coming back, but in a cloned or a different body. So this is something which the Easterners would be able to resonate with, right? So given the standpoint that they have in art, that if something is an exact copy, it has the same value, or it is okay for something to be copied, like the Japanese shrine and all, same way they would think that, hey, it is okay for something to be cloned, right? The religious perspective also comes in. So this perspective is something which makes them more okay with cloning, or they'll have less issues with cloning than their European counterparts or than their Christian counterparts. Now, we've just been discussing this unassailable original, so let's solve this question. The value that the modern West assigns to an unassailable original has resulted in all the following except. That means the modern West, right, the West after the 17th century, give the importance that they are giving to an unassailable original, that has resulted in 3 of the following 4 options. Whichever is not, that becomes a right answer. So we're going to eliminate 3 things, 3 options, which are impacts of the importance or the high value that the modern Westerners are giving to this concept of an unassailable original. This is quite a unique question, because here we are going to eliminate it based on a new technique which I actually call the out of scope technique. So let's give it a shot. It allows regular employment for certain craftsmen. Now, this probably is right. Why? Because given that, there are old things which need to be restored, there will be craftsmen who will work on it. So, for example, that's what's happening in this German cathedral. Certain craftsmen, the people who are repairing, not people who are creating something from new or something like that. And why regular employment? Because if something is old, you do want it to remain as original, right? You don't want it crumbled. You want to repair it, but you want to repair it in the same style. So this would be an impact, so we can eliminate it. It discourages them from making interventions in ancient art. Now, if intervention is something which is making a change, right, as is mentioned here, there was massive intervention in these works, changing their appearance. This was before they went for unassailable originals, right? This was back in the 17th century. So this again is right. Earlier, they used to make interventions. When the idea of an unassailable original developed in the field of art, they essentially stopped making these interventions or changes. So this also is an impact. It discourages them from simultaneous displays of multiple copies of a painting. This is not given, but this we can infer. If we are saying that an original is an original and it has to be an unassailable original, you can't come and say, hey, it is not an original, right? What does that mean? Even if you have an exact copy, that is not going to be considered original. You don't want that. So this is also an impact which we have to infer. it discourages them from carrying out human cloning. So this is exactly what I call an out of scope sort of reason to eliminate. Now this is the right answer, and reason for that is, if you see, the idea of an unassailable original is something which has developed in the field of art. So it's only in the field of art that we have had this concept. The examples also which are given are about antiquities, which are nothing but, antiques, old artifacts, and so on, right? Now all of this mindset that the Chinese have and that the Europeans have is resulting in some of them having issues with cloning, some of them not having issues with cloning. But this is something which is very different, right? So your concept of an unassailable original is leading to this, right? It's leading to this, but it is not the same as this. So that is what makes this the right impact. That, an unassailable original is something which is only in the field of art. So we're looking at these three which are in the field of art. Those are impacts. This, yes, it is an impact maybe because of the mindset, but it is not linked with this particular part. So this becomes the answer. It's a little tricky. It happens very once in a while. For example, a couple of years before this, again, there was another, incidentally, something else which was also about Chinese, but about Chinese currency. So I'll solve that also pretty quickly for you. So watch out for that. Subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't. But this is definitely one technique to remember. Which one of the following scenarios is unlikely to follow from the arguments in the passage? So we've got to go for something which is either about the Chinese and they're not behaving this way, or about the Westerners and they are not behaving this way. In the sense, if we have something which is about Chinese or Japanese or some Eastern or even some Buddhist person who's not giving equal value to an exact copy, that would be the answer. Or if you have a modern Westerner who's giving value to a copy, again, that could be the answer. Somebody who's from the West, but who's from the 17th century or older, they would also be okay with copy. So this is what you remember. If this is a little confusing, just find which options are likely to follow, eliminate them, whatever's left becomes your answer. So that's another way. It will be a little more time taking, but it could potentially boost your accuracy. A 17th century British painter would have no problem adding personal touches when restoring an ancient Roman painting. This is true because we know that in the 17th century, they were not restoring antiquities in a way that is faithful to the original. They were making massive intervention or massive changes. So this is likely to follow from the arguments in the passage. So we eliminate it. A 21st century Christian scientist, so a scientist who's Christian, is likely to oppose cloning because of his philosophical orientation. Makes sense. We know that the Christians called for a ban on human cloning. So again, we can eliminate it. A 17th century French artist who adhered to a Christian worldview would need to be completely true to the original intent of a painting when restoring it. Now, this is something which is there to confuse us. All you need to remember is back in the 17th century, in the West, right, they were not restoring in a way that was faithful to the original. So a French artist in the 17th century need not be completely true to the original intent. He or she could make changes even if they were Christian, right? So this should be the right answer. A 20th century Japanese Buddhist monk would value a reconstructed shrine as the original. So we don't even need to go into the Buddhist. We know that the Japanese would. We know that Chinese and Japanese, they consider something that's an exact copy as the same. It has equal value. So this is following from the arguments in the passage. So we can eliminate it. So that's it for this passage. And stay tuned for tomorrow's, where I'll be solving one more CAT 2022 RC. All the best.